What's up, guys? Terrence here with Retro DNA. I'm here with Willie, and today we're going to talk to you guys about a few PS2 titles that just don't get enough love. Everyone knows the PS2 is probably one of the most popular systems of all time.
Totally.
There are tons of games that come to mind, and there's no doubt that the console in general just gets a lot of love, right? And so we just want to talk about some of those games that people don't mention as much. And if you're a big PS2 fan, or maybe it's been a while since you've sat down and played the PS2, these are some titles we'd recommend you grab just to kind of recreate some nostalgia.
This one's kind of popular, but I think it still doesn't get enough love as it should, and it's Kingdom Hearts. Like, Kingdom Hearts
Great game.
gave you really great action-based combat. It gave you those Disney worlds. It gave you big bosses. Like, where else can you fight a huge giant-sized Ursula? Like, you're not gonna get that anywhere else. The camera was a little bit wonky, but it had a really great magic system. It had like a lot of great ideas in this game, and you see that a lot more in like RPGs now that have like that really in-depth action combat system. So Kingdom Hearts is always going to be one of the greats for me.
For sure. I'd say that's definitely on the must-own list. So next up is, and I'm only going to do a couple here. Willie is the PS2 expert in my opinion, but there's a couple games that came to mind for me, and this first one is kind of in the vein of what I believe to be the best iteration of sports gaming. I don't talk a lot about sports games, but I think the arcade sports experience is one that it's kind of a lost art in gaming. There's a lot of games that just require high technical capabilities, and I just enjoy playing my sports games in that arcade fashion. Just some quick fun, minimal learning curve, a lot of unexpected action, and this is a game that does that. And that game is FIFA Street. Now, of course, FIFA is known for the more popular and consistent modern releases, and while those games are fun, they require you to just have too much knowledge, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Arcade sports games are just about popping it in and getting right to action, right? And the street component here in this and games like an NBA Street and even NFL Blitz or NHL Hits. Just had that extra entertainment component, all the flashy moves, the flair, stuff that you don't see in your standard sports games, but that's more prevalent in this style of arcade play. You always had those extra cheap shots and hits and things that just kind of made it more fun. And so that brought a lot of excitement to the game. I also think in general, soccer games just aren't talked about a lot, and that's probably because all in all, it's kind of the same experience from game to game. So when FIFA Street hit the market, I feel like it was really a fresh take on a sport that we were all familiar with, and it's something that I think they really just should have continued. Unfortunately, they didn't, and the same is true with a lot of those other sports titles that I mentioned, but I would love to see the arcade era of sports come back, especially this game right here. I'd love to see a new iteration of FIFA Street.
Sounds like a great choice.
Thank you.
My next pick is going to be Final Fantasy X-2. This game came out after Final Fantasy X, which was created a phenomenon. And I think some people were kind of disappointed when this came out because they didn't really realize how true of a gem it was. I'm a Sailor Moon fan. We've never gotten a Sailor Moon game, unfortunately, at least not in the US. But this is a close adaptation to that. You have dress spears, you have a great active battle system that was already great in 10, but now they have evolved that. You have some of the same characters coming back. We're seeing where they're at now. They're having kids, they're making families, they're trying to branch out. They're a little bit more realized. And it's still Yuna's journey. So I think this is something that there's a lot of value in just giving it a spin and trying to see where it's at. I would definitely put this up there as one of my top games.
Willie, I'm interested to know your opinion on this. So I think a lot of times with the Final Fantasy games, right after there's a huge Final Fantasy title, it seems like whatever the one is that comes after it, for whatever reason, is just kind of like still living in the shadow of its predecessor, right? Like Final Fantasy VIII, I think, is arguably one of the best Final Fantasy games. But because it came after 7, which was like revolutionary, people don't like talk about it as much. I don't hear about it. I think a lot of folks just skip over it. And maybe that's my opinion. But I know I was really excited about Final Fantasy X when it came out, and 10-2 wasn't even a thought. Like, I never even crossed my mind. And so strangely enough, I own it, but have never played it. So now that you're talking about it, I think I gotta give it a spin.
Yeah, I think Square is one of those companies they put out banger after banger after banger. So something's gonna get, overshadowed. I think sometimes it's these releases that come up right after the big ones. So.
That's a fair point, yeah. That's good. I'm gonna let you do another one because you're on a roll, man. You're on a roll.
Okay.
I'm just trying to learn.
Another one of my favorites would have to be Simpsons Road Rage. It gives you the same kind of zest of a crazy taxi. You're picking up people, you're dropping off people for fares. It's a great two-player experience because there's just like a lot of tension because like who can pick up the person first, who can drop them off first, who can gather the best amount of money. And you're also trying to like secure the best route. Sometimes you're jumping over buildings, you're going through highways, all those type of things, and you're doing it with a cast of characters that you know. Everybody's watched The Simpsons. It's been around for 30 years. So you kind of get invested, and there's a lot of heart in this, and there's a lot of good writing in this game. So I definitely think this is one to pick if you just want like that quick two-player experience, or just like an arcade experience. A lot of value there for you.
So I've got a question for you on this one as well. So as much as I love Crazy Taxi and Crazy Taxi 2, I admit I have not played this game. I notoriously mixed it up with Hit and Run, but I did love Hit and Run, but I don't want to get off track. Crazy Taxi is like, it's almost extremely repetitive in the fact that it's hard to advance very far in it, and you kind of just replay that same portion of the map over and over again, because usually you only make it so far before you run out of time. And so I feel like it lacks in originality in that sense. Is Road Rage similar in that way? Are you kind of just replaying the same part over again, or does it evolve at any point?
I mean, there's like 7, I believe, different areas in this game, so
Okay.
like there's a big landscape for you to kind of traverse. So I don't think it goes under that same kind of rigid format. And there's also like 30 different characters, so you're interacting with different people. It's not just like the same person you're picking up and taking somewhere. So that also helps. It's a colorful world. It's a world you really want to play in and kind of like try to figure out the best routes around and things like that. So I think it has a lot of originality within it to keep you hooked, at least for a nice afternoon or a good weekend.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Well, I'll go next here. I'm just gonna say it. This is probably gonna make me seem like much less of a gamer, a sit-down gamer anyway. But not many lists talk about any of the DDR games. But I'm gonna go out there on a limb and say Dance Dance Revolution X2 doesn't get enough love. And the reason I'm gonna say that is because I think modern collectors don't tend to own this one, because while Dance Dance Revolution, all of the games, because I think there's like 6 or 7 of them on the PS2. They're all cheap, easy to get a hold of, except for this one. This one is pretty rare. It does go for a pretty penny. It's easily 10 times as much as the others in terms of price. But for those who experienced it in the moment, this game, I think, just wasn't on as many people's shelves. They didn't have access to it, so they didn't get to play it as much. But the unique thing about this game is the music. The playlist throughout this game is almost all known artists with popular songs from that time period, and that's just not usually the case with DDR, especially in the PS2 era. There were usually 1 or 2 big songs, whereas X2 is hit after hit after hit, just a lot of fun songs. The mechanics, of course, are the same. DDR is very consistent, so I can't say that it stands out in that area, but I think the fun factor for a DDR game ultimately comes down to which games you just enjoy dancing to the most, because you like the music, and so the music really stands out for me in this. I admit this topic was tough for me. It was tough because I feel like a lot of the games that I love for PS2 are the games that people know really well, and they are some of the more popular titles. So I probably don't stand out a ton there. But when it comes to Dance Dance Revolution, which I play a lot of,
oh, what a loser!
This is hands down my favorite, and it's not even close. I don't think X2 gets enough love with it.
Okay. And that's really a good segue.
Badass segue, right?
Segue into my next pick, Midnight Club 3. Midnight Club takes me back to like the early 2000s. It takes me back to Ja Rule, 50 Cent, like that type of music. And Midnight Club always had good music when you're like riding around playing. So it's a great racer. There's tons of customization here. You can put rims on your car. You can change the color. I mean, it was kind of like one of the really big first pushes in the customization. So that's what I really love about Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. And also you can like ride choppers and different type of vehicles and things like that. So that was like a really big influence on my pick also. A lot of versatility. It's fun to play with a group of friends. You have a kind of like that, you know, early 2000s music atmosphere. It really presented itself in a great way. That's why I really want to pick this one.
Yeah, I think that time period was like all about the music.
Yeah.
Like, it had a style all of its own, that is for sure. Guys, we thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we showed you a couple games that either you haven't played in a long time, or maybe like me, you haven't experienced them at all. And you know, now you have a new one to add to the list. We highly encourage you to check out all of these. Feel free to drop a comment. Let us know some games that are either hidden gems or simply don't get enough love on the PlayStation 2. We'd love to hear your picks. We thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you next time.
Go play something.